Acheinu kol beis Yisrael Anisunim batzora v'ashivya V'imdim bein bayom Uvein bayabosho Acheinu kol beis Yisrael Anisunim batzora v'ashivya V'imdim bein bayom
You have to sing into the mic, so
Bein bayabosho Acheinu kol beis Yisrael Anisunim batzora v'ashivya V'imdim bein bayom Uvein bayabosho A little faster. Join me. Who's not singing? Melave Hashem, we welcome everybody who's here for the Yeshiva Kesed Torah Melave Malka. We'd like to begin with one of the Choshev Rabbonim in Queens, a Machaber of Sforim, one who does very much for Yiddishkeit in an unbelievable manner. I'm talking about the director of Chazak, Rav Ilan Meirov, who will say a few words.
Shavua Tov, Morai v'Rabotai. It's a tremendous honor and a privilege for me to be speaking here tonight on behalf of Yeshiva Kesed Torah. Kishmo Kenhu. It's truly a Kesed for the Torah, Makam Tefillah, where Baruch Hashem hundreds upon hundreds of people have the zechus to be involved with, to daven there, to learn there every single day. Yiratzon that the Rosh Yeshiva Be'ez Hashem, together with all the Tomchei Yeshiva, should be zocheh to have continued health and koach, l'agdir Torah u'la'adira, amen ve'amen. I want to share with everyone a very small point, which I believe affects a lot of the people in our room, and really, bichlal, all over the world. And hopefully, B'ezrat Hashem, we can get a little bit chizuk together. You know, we live in a very competitive society. Everyone's looking to impress their family, their friends, kal v'chomer to impress their enemies. We're always trying to do more, outdo the other person. It's like they say when it comes to credit cards, most people buy things they don't need with money they don't have to impress people they don't like. You know, this is the door we live in. It's all about everyone seeing, look what I have, and then a week later, I'll show you something even better. Whether it's technology, whether it's clothes, v'chulu v'chulu. And the question is, how do we deal with this? How do we eradicate this from our life? How can we live a life of true simchat ha'chaim, of being sameach b'chelkai? So, I think we could potentially answer this question by answering several questions that we must analyze regarding Yosef HaTzadik. You know, we're learning about Yosef HaTzadik for the past few weeks. This week, once again, you know, Yosef was nearly killed by his brothers. We all know that. Thrown into the pit, sold numerous times, put in prison on false charges. And the Torah testifies something very interesting. It says, "Ve'asher hu oseh, Hashem matzliach." Everything Yosef did in prison, Hashem gave him matzlacha. He was successful. And the question is, how much success could you possibly have in prison? How do we measure success in prison? Keep in mind, it's like the prison of today. Today, certain crimes, you have a prison sentence where you have cable TV, you have basketball leagues, you have a minyan for Sfaradim, Ashkenazim. It's very sophisticated. Maybe there's some sort of competition there. Maybe there's a way of measuring success. But back then, third world country, Egypt, 3,000 years ago, you were in a rat hole. What kind of success could Yosef HaTzadik already have? What's the Torah talking about over there? That's question number one. Then we have questions about this week's parasha, the famous encounter between Yosef and his brother Binyamin. They both had the same mother, Rachel Imenu. They're brothers that were separated for years. And and finally they get to meet each other. Yosef reveals himself to the brothers. He gets to see his younger brother, Binyamin. And the Torah tells us that they fell on each other's necks. Yosef fell on the neck of Binyamin and he cried. Binyamin on the neck of Yosef and he cried. And Rashi explains what was this whole episode about. Says Rashi, Yosef cried on the neck of Binyamin because of the two Batei Mikdash that were going to be in the chelik of Binyamin and both will be destroyed. And then he had Binyamin crying on Yosef's neck because Mishkan Shiloh will be in the chelik of Yosef, that too will be destroyed. So they both cried about a churban that would happen many years later. The obvious question is, do they have nothing better to do at this moment? Just imagine, a woman doesn't have kids for many years. Baruch Hashem, she's pregnant. She sits with her husband and they start crying. What are they crying about? She's in the 5th month. Everything's good. But what is she crying about? Because one day this baby will eventually die. So they're crying on the eventual death of this child. But the baby's not even here. Just enjoy the moment. Yosef, enjoy your brother. You haven't seen him for so long. This is the time to cry about the Beit HaMikdash, about Mishkan Shiloh. Furthermore, why is Yosef crying about Binyamin's destruction and Binyamin crying about Yosef's destruction? Let them cry about their own houses burning down. But even a starker question is, how does Rashi, quoting the Midrash, know that's what they cried about? How do they know they cried about the future destruction of the bed? Maybe they're crying about, they haven't seen each other for so many years. What's the siman in the pasuk that signifies they were crying about the destruction of many years later? Bezrat Hashem will try to answer al rishon rishon al acharon acharon. Regarding Yosef's success in prison. You see, when we measure success in today's society, we measure my business in comparison to your business. It's my home in comparison to your home. My car versus your car. My grades in school versus your grades in school. Says the Torah Kedusha, when it comes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, success is not measured by comparing A to B. Rather, success is measured by your potential versus your actuals. What were you able to do in the situation you were given? What were you able to do with your wife, your husband, your kids, your business, your community, with the matzav that you were given? It's not about comparing my success to yours, my limud Torah to yours, my money to yours. Absolutely not. Success is all about the individual in his or her situation. This is the limud we get from Yosef HaTzadik. Successful in prison. What does that mean? In his situation, he was matzliach. Now what happens is, Yosef sees Binyamin. He sees his brother for the first time in so many years. You could just imagine the emotions flying high. Such excitement. Such hitlaavut. And as they see each other, they're thinking, how could it be where we're separated for so long? What was the cause of this? And they remembered it's all about the competition that the brothers had with Yosef. All about the sinat achim, sinat chinam. At that moment, the two of them cried, Hashem Yishmor, because of that, we couldn't see each other for so many years. And at that moment, they thought about the future churban of the Beit HaMikdash, of Mishkan Shiloh. Why? Because they realized the same exact cause of Yosef being separated from Binyamin, that's what's going to cause the churban many years later. So they're crying about the fact that here me and you didn't see each other for so long, and look, many years later in our chelik of Eretz Yisrael, destruction will take place because of the same exact reason. And that's why, Be'etzem, Yosef cried for Binyamin and Binyamin cried for Yosef. They weren't crying for their own problems. They cried for the other person's problems. Because that's the first step of Ahavat Chinam. It's not about me. It's about you. Yosef was crying for Binyamin, and Binyamin cried for Yosef. You know, L'tzarenu harav, this past week, we saw the achdus of Klal Yisrael after a tragedy, and we saw the achdus of Klal Yisrael after a great Yeshua. We saw what happened in Brooklyn. Beautiful family of 6 beautiful children, husband and wife. Mamash, in an instant, their whole life has been changed forever. The mother, 3 beautiful children, Alu Shamayma, and then the other ones were, Hashem Yishmor, went through a terrible experience. But Am Yisrael got together. We didn't care where they came from, what background. It makes no nafkamina. Everyone davened, everyone tried taking an extra mitzvah. And then a day or two later, we hear about the story of Rubashkin. Here's a man that was in prison for 8 years, sentenced to about 26, 27 years. 10 children. And when we heard the release, a simchat ha'chaim. Doesn't matter if you're from Crown Heights or Monsey or New Square or here in Queens and Brooklyn. Everyone was sameach over a yid that got to start his life over again with his beautiful wife and children. We put all our differences aside. But Rabotai, why do we need such things to happen to put our differences aside? All of us, Baruch Hashem, had a great simcha for them and a great tzar for the other family. We feel like Baruch Hashem, we're where we should be. I saw a beautiful thing in the Sefer Ol Etzion from Chacham Etzina Bar Shaul. He says, stories like these are not begeder ve'ahavta l'recha kamocha. Helping out the Azan family by sponsoring for them or reading Tehillim or being simcha for the Rubash, that's not ve'ahavta l'recha kamocha. How could you not have simcha for one and tzar for the other? That's a natural reaction to these events. He says, when a friend of yours has a wife that's sick, chas v'shalom, and now you offer to take their kid to school on a Sunday or on a legal holiday, how could you not do that for them? How could you not help them out when the mother is very sick? He says, true ve'ahavta l'recha kamocha is where things are going well, the family is healthy, and you pick up your phone on Motzi Shabbos and tell your neighbor, by the way, I'm driving my kid to school. Do you need a ride for your kids as well? When someone needs help, and nothing is wrong, just to offer the help. To be bitzar for someone that's in pain, it's a no big deal, as they say. Doesn't take much. To be b'simcha for someone that was in prison and had 20 more years left, not a big zach. It should be b'simcha when someone buys a home and you were competing with him for many years in your business, you got a raise, you did it, to really be happy for him. That's ve'ahavta l'recha kamocha. And many of us, all of us, really have a lot of room for improvement. And if we could say one thing about Yeshiva Kesed Torah, about the Mar Da'asur, the Rosh Yeshiva, I think we can all agree, that one of the biggest ma'alot of the Yeshiva, of the Rav, is his true Ahavat Yisrael. Every single Yid, Ba'asher hu, you're frum, not so frum, you're Baal Tshuva, your family originates from Hungary, Poland, Morocco, Bukhara, Persia, makes no difference. The true Ahavat Yisrael, making everyone feel at home. That magnetic smile he gives to everyone, whether you're the richest guy or a regular guy or someone in the middle. That is something we have to aspire to. That's someone we have to look up to. You know, we asked, how does Rashi know that when Yosef was crying on Binyamin's neck, and vice versa, that they're crying about the atid of the Bet HaMikdash? Maybe they're crying about their emotions. They haven't seen each other for many years. So I saw a beautiful pshat. Why did the Torah have to stress they cried on each other's necks? Just say they cried. Maybe they could have cried on the shoulders. Why did they cry dafka on the neck? There's a reason behind it. So they explain, very interesting, what's a neck? What is a tzavar? The tzavar is the chibur. It's a connecting piece between the body, the lower part of the body, and the head, the upper part of the body. So it says Rashi, by the fact they cried on each other's tzavar on the neck, it must be they're crying over something that's connecting the bottom to the top. The Bet HaMikdash that connects us in this world to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the Olam HaElonim. Morai v'Rabotai, Yeshiva Kesed Torah. I looked at the statistics before in the book that I forgot the numbers. So many tefillot, every single day, every single week, every single year. It's without question the tzavar from us here in this world to the HaKadosh Baruch Hu in Shamayim. So many tefillot, so much limud Torah, and we all have a tremendous hakarat hatov, both to the Rosh Yeshiva, to the Tomchei Yeshiva, to people involved. Because if you ever need a minyan at 11:30, 11:45 at night, you know where you're going. You know where you're going. So Bezrat Hashem, Al tiyeh birkat idol kala beinecha. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should give the Rav, the Rosh Yeshiva, arichut yamim v'shanim, with true simchas achayim for all his community, his family members, and Bezrat Hashem, this yeshiva, together with all the Bate Knesiyot, we should be zeicher to see it go up straight to Yerushalayim Ir HaKodesh, v'mera b'yameinu, amen v'amen.
Our new assemblyman, Daniel Rosenthal, we are very happy to introduce him to everybody, and we hope he will do a lot of great things for Klal Yisrael. Amen v'yomen.
Good luck, everyone. I can stay. Just came by. I want to really show my hakaras tov to the Rav for all the work that he does. Yeshiva Kesed Torah is really a hidden gem in Key Garden Hills. I was speaking in the office yesterday. We were going over the calendar for the weekend, and someone in the office said, I didn't know that was a shul there. I said, of course, it really is. From the outside, it may look like a home, but when you walk in, you realize that it really is a makom Torah. It's a place where the Rav has shirim all the time. He spreads his words of Torah. And it's also a great place that I've saved me many times late at night to catch a marv at midnight. Just wanted to show my hakaras tov for the Rav for all the work that he does. He is always advocating. He's called us into his office many times to see what we can do to the community and how we can help. And I really want to thank the Rav again for all of his work. It's really been a pleasure to work with you, and it really is an honor to represent this neighborhood in the State Assembly and able to try to help our institutions, our community as much as we can up in Albany. We don't have too many voices now, and it's an important time to get involved and to be able to speak up to make sure that our community is represented. Thank you.
Thank you. We'd like to thank our guests of honor, Pesach Minkin and Celia, Talmidim of Kesed Torah. It was very special in learning Torah, and Baruch Hashem, we have such nachas from Pesach that his son, with the Shtraimel, was the Sefer for our new Sefer Torah, and he plans to continue to sit and learn, and it's really a great nachas for us to honor Pesach and Celia. And in his honor, we would like to call upon his Rav from Edison, New Jersey, Rabbi Drucker, who will say a few words l'chvoidai.
B'shus Rosh Yeshiva Shlita, Moreover Rabbi Isai, good tavach. I come this evening as a longtime friend of Pesach and Celia Minkin. Baruch Hashem, I've had the pleasure of knowing them for almost a quarter of a century. And the contributions that they have made to the Aguda of Edison Highland Park, to our community at large, are tremendous. And I have also a tremendous debt of Hakaras HaTov to the Rosh Yeshiva Shlita for setting them on a course of constant growth in Torah and Yiras Shamayim that has, Baruch Hashem, blossomed to become a beautiful family, together with grandchildren, all following in their illustrious footsteps. Just a short thought from this week's Parsha. Yosef sends word back through his brothers to Yaakov Avinu, and he has to authenticate himself, because after all, maybe the brothers are making up a story. And so he embeds in the message that's sent to his father a siman. And Rashi tells us that the siman is that although he did not reveal it explicitly to the brothers, but he asked the brothers to say to their father, that if you believe us, good, says the Medrash, and if you don't, take a look at these agalos. Yosef told us that there's something about these agalos, about these wagons, that refers to the last thing that you were discussing. And the Torah tells us, Vayar es ha'agalos, that Yaakov Avinu saw these wagons, recalled, as Rashi says, the Parsha of Egla Rufa, which apparently Yaakov Avinu was learning with Yosef at the very last moment before he dispatched him, V'yashlicheu me'emek Chevron, dispatched him on his trip to find his brothers. If Yaakov Avinu was looking for some type of siman, if Yosef was looking for a siman to authenticate himself to his father, why would he look specifically at the Egla Rufa, the last thing they studied? There were so many other ways that he could have identified himself. Rashi tells us that Yosef was the Ben Zekunim. Ben Zekunim is the one, says Rashi, that he was Meiser, the Torah of Shem Ve'aver, that which Yaakov Avinu had learned in the yeshivas of Shem Ve'aver, he learned specifically with Yosef. He didn't learn it with the rest of the brothers. He could have used some of the Torah that was specific to Yosef, and Yosef could have identified himself through that. Remember, Abba, that we learned Masechta Avodah Zarah 150 times. Never learned it with any of the other brothers. What is the inyan of Egla Rufa? I would just like to say briefly that we know that overhanging and hovering over the entire narrative of Yosef and his brothers is the bris bein habsarim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Avram Avinu that Ger Yezaracha be'eretz lo lahem, that they're ultimately going to go down, v'avodo ve'ino isam arba me'er shana, they're going to go down to Mitzrayim and serve for 400 years, v'achrei chen yetzu b'rechush gadol, and afterwards they'll come out with a great wealth. But Chazal tell us that Roy Yaakov Avinu leirid l'Mitzrayim b'shalshalois shel barzel, that it was really fitting for Yaakov Avinu to find his way down to Mitzrayim being schlepped in chains made out of iron. Ella zechusai garmulai, but he had a schus, and the schus allowed him to avoid that terrible descent to Mitzrayim. But we should wonder, why would Yaakov Avinu have to be schlepped with shalshalei shel barzel? After all, he also knew the bris bein habsarim. He knew that ultimately he was going to have to go down to Mitzrayim. Why would he express any type of resistance to what the Devar Hashem was? He believed in the nevuah that Avram Avinu had. I would like to suggest that we find perhaps an analogy in Yaina. Yaina was told by HaKadosh Baruch Hu to go to Nineveh, but he refused. He rejected it and went away. And he did it for the toelas of the Klal Yisrael. He didn't want the Klal Yisrael to be besmirched. Here, those that live in Nineveh do tshuva, and the Klal Yisrael doesn't. Yaakov Avinu may have had the same thought, because Chazal tell us in the parsha of Egla Rufa, to Sifri, that the Zakenim from the Bezdin Shal Yushalayim go out with the Kahanim and the Bezdin Ha'ir to the place where they find the individual who is slain, and they break the neck of the Egla Rufa in the Nachal Eson, and they say, Kaper le'amcha asher padisa Hashem, that they ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu for atonement for that which was done by this individual being slain, but they say, Asher Padisa Hashem, that you, Hashem, have redeemed from Mitzrayim. And the Sifri says that Almanas Kain Padisa, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says that it's only for this reason that I have redeemed you from Mitzrayim. Almanas Shlo Yushoifchei Damim, and only on the provision that you are not going to shed blood one against the other. If there were ever any bloodshed amongst the Klal Yisrael, so then the Klal Yisrael would have never been redeemed from Mitzrayim. Yaakov Avinu was concerned that although Achaya Ro'ach Lasuhu, but the Medrash tells us, some of the Meforshim explain, Yaakov Avinu thought that it really wasn't Achaya Ro'ah. He was just being kind. He thought that maybe the brothers, he understood their sinna, that the hatred that was expressed, and they felt that maybe he was one of his brothers, one of the sons that had taken the life of Yosef. And so therefore, Yaakov Avinu couldn't contemplate going down to Mitzrayim because he was never going to get out. Arba Me'ah Shana is something which is an incredible period of time. But at least there's a light at the end of the tunnel. You're going to leave. But if you're never going to leave, so then why in the world would I ever want to go down to Mitzrayim? He would have to be schlepped by Shalshalais Shel Barzel in order to get him down there. But he sent back the word of the simon of the Agalois of Egla Rufa, Apparently, when Yaakov Avinu had said goodbye to Yosef, when he dispatched him, he performed the mitzvah of levaya, of escorting him, which we learned from the Parsha of Egla Rufa. And it was that levaya that allowed Yosef the schus to continue and his blood not be shed. And when he saw that sign, and that sign in particular, then Yaakov Avinu felt comforted that the bris bein absarim has to unfold. And it's going to take 400 years, but at least there's a chance now we're going to get out, since there were no shofchei damim among my children. The schus that the Rosh Hashiva Shlita has is that not only, as we've heard, that he has dealt with so many different Jews from all different types of backgrounds, and he deals with them very warmly. But the big schus is that he shows them a way out of the difficulties that they have. Those who've come to him from backgrounds that were bereft of Torah and Yerushalayim, he showed them that there is a way to get out. The most impossible thing to contemplate is going into Gullus and knowing and thinking that you're never going to escape. But through his pikkus, through his Torah, through his musar, through his self-example, he was able to communicate to so many Talmidim that there's a way for you to become a full-fledged member of the Yereim and Shleimim of the Klal Yisrael, and that you can extricate yourself from the past of your life to be able to become a true Eved Hashem. And it's in this chus that his Talmidim have brought him tremendous nachas, and it's in this chus that the Rosh Hashiva, together with his Rebbetzin, should be zeicha to arichas yomim, to be able to continue to shep the nachas from all that they've planted amongst their very fine Talmidim. Mazel tov.
Rabbi Drucker, stand here as we give him a...
Okay.
Not used to
I'm on the side.
In grateful appreciation to Reb Pesach and Celia Minkin, guests of honor, for their dedication and devotion to Yeshiva Kesed Torah, Yeshiva Kesed Torah 33rd Annual Journal, Melave Malka, December 23rd, 2017, Mitzvah Shabbos Kodesh Parshas Vayigash.
Take a picture. Where's Celia? Where's Celia?
Barashus, Rosh Hashiva, Shlita, my Rav, Rabbi Drucker, Shlita. Thank you very much for the warm introductions and appreciate this very much. You know, 17 years ago, Celia and I were asked with Frank and Esther to be the guest of honor. And so we were accepted then, and we were zocheh to be able to do the same thing this year. Now, in nature, there's a bug which has a 17-year cycle. Okay. Now, there's a 19-year cycle, the Machzor Gadol. There's other cycles. There's the cicada. The one that does. in the summer, which drives us all nuts. That's on a 17-year cycle. So maybe there's a pattern here that we're getting in for this this kind of award. I just want to express my hargasha to people who came tonight, Rabbi Drucker, who are zocheh to be in Agudas Yisrael in Edison Highland Park and see the growth of the community and the effort that Rabbi Drucker goes through to teach Torah, to lead. He's a major posek in America, and we're zocheh that he was able to join us today. My family, for my mother-in-law for coming from Highland Park, appreciate that very much. For Diane Shmuel and Esther from Lakewood, the kids from Lakewood, appreciate it. Aryeh and Shani from Bayswater, my Mechutin, appreciate it very much. Friends, the Mensch, the Finks, we appreciate very much for coming. And Frank and Esther from SEC and Steve and Pauline and family. Steve coming from Tokyo or from Seattle or from Silver Spring or from Kew Garden Hills. I'm not really sure where you're coming from. I really appreciate it. So I just want to tell a little story. The rabbi asked me to talk a little bit about being in the yeshiva. In 1981, so I tell a little story about how I came to the yeshiva. I was working as a software engineer for Honeywell, and I got into learning in Minneapolis. And I wanted to get learning down. So you're going to see I was very naive. I said, okay, I'm going to take a year's leave of absence. I'm going to go to Israel, and I'm going to get this learning stuff down. Check, get it down. Okay, so that was very naive that could happen in a year. That's a lifetime endeavor. But that year was interrupted. There were some issues in the family, some health problems in the family. I had to come back to the States. And I came to Kesser Torah for Shabbos. And that was it. That was exactly what I needed at that time. That the Rosenblatts with the ruchnius and the learning, it just clicked with me, and that was perfect for what I needed at that point. And I think that if you look at the background of the Rosh Yeshiva, Shlita, that we're learning in Lakewood with Rav Aaron Cutler Tzadal, then coming in with the Amkus HaTorah, then going to Queens to learn with Rav Henich Leibowitz Tzadal, and that different perspective of the Amkus HaTorah, and then giving the touch of his nigunim that he composes, plus a twist of Shlomo Carlebach and some of the Chassidus. I said that unique synthesis just made it work for me and many of the Talmidim in the yeshiva. And so, that was a kind of a difficult period of time that the Rosh Yeshiva, as the rabbi eloquently explained, really brought me into a different madrega. And we know that Kol Man David, Rachmana L'Tav Avid. And so the number one best decision in Linius Daiti that Rabbi Rosenblatt made was to hire Celia Jaffe as the secretary of the yeshiva. And so, that shidduch was made, and we have, Baruch Hashem, have our children who are here, some are in Eretz Yisrael, who are really all osek, b'Torah, and mitzvahs, and really, that schus is due to Celia. Celia is, when she's in the kitchen doing her avodas in the house, she's always listening to Torah anytime. Or if she's not, she's listening to another shir, or she's learning a sefer, and she's really the glue of the family. That if you come to my house, usually I come home, and typically, let me tell you, my wife does not like to talk on the phone. Okay? But whenever I come home, my wife is on the phone. So it's but that's because she's the glue of the family. Because she's always talking to the kids, talking to her mother, talking to her brothers, talking and keeping the family together. So, Baruch Hashem. And that's our secret sauce of our family. So what's the secret sauce, in my opinion, of the yeshiva, of Kesser Torah? And that's that everything that the rabbi does, the Trani does, is l'shem shamayim. That in the yeshiva, there are some interesting characters who kind of waltzed through the yeshiva over the years that I was there in the early 80s. There was, everyone had kind of a name. There was Moshe Matt, there was, and Moshe Browski is like this. There was the blended salads. Remember the blended salads, Moshe? And so there were some different characters. But the rabbi, he had his eye on the Shem Shemayim, and the Talmidim who really were able to makabel what the Rosenblatts were able to present and the growth that they experience is a chus to the Rosenblatts. And I just want to express my major hakoras hatov to Trani and to the rabbi for what they have done for my family, for myself, for Celia, for the Talmidim of Klal Yisrael, and they should be able to zocha to be able to serve Klal Yisrael ad mei ve'asrim shkach yivach.
Before we show the video of the Hachnosa Sefer Torah, we would like to honor our Lee Niggin, guest of honor, and Talmud of Kesser Torah, who does very, very much for Yiddishkeit. And one time he was honored. I got to tell you this story. I don't know if he remembers it. One time he was honored, and they called him an alumni of Kesser Torah, and he protested. He says, "I'm not an alumni. I'm still in the yeshiva." Do you remember? Okay, I would like to call upon Lee. 1 second, before we call on Lee, we have Rabbi Steinig here. Rabbi Steinig, yeah, he's coming in. Rabbi Steinig was the rabbi in Bayside where Lee grew up. And we'd like to ask Rabbi Steinig to say a few words about Lee before we give him his plaque.
Thank you. Birshus Rosh Yeshiva, Rabbanim Chashuvim, guests, friends. Looking to this week's Parsha, we have the question that many rabbis ask. We are told the bracha that we're supposed to give to our sons is Simcha Elokim K'Ephraim B'chi Menashe. And, we sort of imagine Reuven, Shimon, Levi, and all the rest saying, what am I, chopped liver? Out of all of the Shvatim, we have to pick the two who are not only the youngest, but not even of the same generation. And this indeed is one answer that our rabbis tell us. What made Ephraim and Menashe so special is that they hearken back to a previous generation. We understand what Yerida Sadoros is all about. We only imagine the lofty spiritual level that our ancestors were at as they stood at Har Sinai, as our neshamos were getting hana from it as well. And here we are 3,300 years later, and we know what we aspire to, and each one of us knows in what way we fall a little bit short. Ephraim and Menashe went against nature. When Yaakov Avinu said, Ki Reuven v'Shimon Yuli, he said, they are no less than Reuven and Shimon. They are no less than their uncles. In other words, even though they're a generation later, their neshamos are a generation loftier, a generation higher. And this is what makes someone special. This is why we want our children to be like Ephraim and Menashe. Don't be like the next generation. Be like my parents. Be like my bubbies and zaydas. Be like the older generations. This is what we want. And this we hope and pray for all of our children, for all of our descendants. I think it's appropriate to say that Lee Niggin, who was a Ben Bias, he was part of our family for so many years in Bayside. He came to us we first met. He was an undergraduate, a young man, still very much in formation, and he became as I said, a ben bias. He became a big brother to my children. He became, I have to tell you, Lee, you used to annoy me because you would do all of the things that I as a young man never did, that I as a husband never did. Okay? I don't know, maybe somebody here, but certainly not me. You invite a young man, come for Shabbos, come for Yontif, come for a meal, who 2 days before Yontif makes a phone call and says to the Rebbetzin, if the kids are in your way, I'll take them off your hands for the whole day. Yeah. And of course, as my wife is saying, that would be great. She looks at me with a glare and, as if to say, why didn't you think of that? With all of the help around the house and so forth and so on, at meals, in the shul, anything and everything that he could do, nothing was beneath him because he saw all of it as avodas hakodesh. I'm serving the shul, I'm serving the community. I'm helping the rabbi, I'm helping the rebbetzin, I'm helping the community. And as I said, anything and everything he did with a good heart, and he did with all the right spirit and meaning. And in that way, he's very much like a bygone generation. I remember what it's like as a young man. You want to get invitations for Shabbos meals. You want to get invitations to be able to go away or see a different point of view or taste different foods. But to volunteer, what can I shop? Can I help? Can I clean up? Can I take the kids? Like I said, he ruined it for me in a very big way. But at the same time was an inspiration. And I would like to think that if all I could do was sit back and admire him from a distance but not approach, I know at this point that a lot of that rubbed off on the kids, so it was meaningful for them too. Big brother Lee. For those of you who might not know me this way, but maybe the voice sounds a little familiar, let me help you out. Rabbosai, before we begin Mincha, could you please check your phones, make sure they won't be disturbing the davening? Yeah, that's me. For the past number of weeks, I've also been the one saying, please remember to make your reservations and take out your ads for the Melave Malka. But when the Rosh Hashiva asked me, he said, you're already making announcements, make an announcement for the Melave Malka. And I said, Rosh Hashiva, I feel a little uncomfortable doing that. I won't be able to attend the Melave Malka. I have yard site that night for my father, Olav Shalom, Reb Moshe ben Dov Ber. And I will come in for a moment to wish Mazel Tov to Lee, but it's not appropriate that I be at a simcha. The Rosh Hashiva, in his brilliant and yet sensitive way, said, but if you're already coming in to show honor to Lee, why don't you say a few words? And that's why I'm here. So I have to thank the Rosh Hashiva for the wonderful opportunity to introduce this wonderful, I'm sorry, Lee, in my mind you will always be a kid, this wonderful young man. As I said earlier in the Dvar Torah, we want to look back to previous generations, the formalities, the derech eretz, the selflessness, the only thinking of others, the giving without stopping to ask, is it beneath my dignity? This is everything that Lee Nigan has always been. He is always about the klal. He is always about the kedusha, the learning, the davening, and even if it meant spending time with the rabbi's kids, whatever could be done to make things better. I'm tremendously honored to be the one to call upon him as the honoree this year at the Melave Malka. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Mitzvah Hashem, that's on videotape because I'd like my mother-in-law to see it. Of course, Baruch Hashem, my mother-in-law is here with us, Ms. Chana Meth, and I want to thank her for her presence. My son is also here with us, as he was when I was first honored, pardon for the microphone, 10 years ago. And at the time, he was small enough I could hold him in my left arm. I was in a room at the other Young Israel, and I remember very clearly saying to the crowd that my office had a phone call. You've been asked to speak at the Yeshiva's Melave Malka, and Mr. Nigan should be short. So I held up my son and I said, here is Mr. Niggin, who is short. Now, it's 10 years later, and honestly, I can't say that anymore. He's not so short. I would like to think I will be short. If I'm not so short, I have it written down, so it should be short. So please forgive me as I begin.
כל מי שהעסקים בצורכי ציבור באמונה, הקדוש ברוך הוא ישלם שכרם. In grateful appreciation to Rebli and Rivki Niggin, guests of honor, for their dedication and devotion to Yeshiva Kesser Torah, 33rd Annual Journal Melave Malka, December 23rd, 2017, Motzei Shabbos Kodesh, Parshas Vayigash. Take a picture. Immediately following this speech, we will show the video of our Achnosa Sefer Torah.
Thank you. And I will be brief. But I promise I would be anyway. Dear Rosh Hashiva and Rebbitzin, and for all you've done for me for the past 30 years. Dear honored guests, as I mentioned, including my mother-in-law, Mrs. Chana Meth, to my co-honoree, my wife, Rivki Niggin, to my son who's here, Yonatan Niggin, to Center for Return Director and dear friend for 30-odd years, Rabbi Avraham Kahn, who's also here, to my beloved Rav Shalom Steinig from Young Israel Bayside, also for 3 decades. To all of you, to Mr. Yaakov Searle from the Queens Jewish Link, who is also my favorite landlord from 29 years ago, Dr. Yisrael Leifer, and all my other fellow Talmidim from Yeshiva Kesher Torah, who again I've known for these hard-to-believe past 30 years. To all of you and to all of you who have come this evening to be part of this wonderful gathering. Our Rav in Brooklyn, Rav Yisrael Reisman, world-famous Rav, this morning at Shabbos services, brought down the Chamin Motzei Shabbos from this week's Parsha, mentioned very briefly as to Yosef's first remark to his brothers, please tell my father, Yaakov Avinu, when you see him, and I haven't seen him for 22 years, please tell him that I am honored here in Egypt. Ladies and gentlemen, as Rav Reisman said this morning, isn't this odd? Of all the things that the son would want the father to hear after his long absence, I'm alive, I'm well, you have grandchildren, you have a daughter-in-law. The first thing he mentions is that he was honored. Now at first that might sound gaivadik. Ladies and gentlemen, I am honored. But as Rav Reisman said this morning, the important thing about Yosef Avinu, Yosef HaTzadik, being mentioned that he was honored was because it was a recognition of the importance of his service to others. And I've been privileged to be helped to try to be of service both through legal activity and through helping with the Sefer Torah campaign to Kesser Torah, which is of utmost importance to this Queens community. For decades, for 5 decades, a half of a century, Yeshiva Kesser Torah has provided an atmosphere of Torah, Kiruv, and Tefillah to our community. There are over, according to the count, I've seen 100 minyanim a week, almost 5,000, maybe more than 5,000 minyanim every year here in our community, almost continuously through the day and evening. No place like it. There are shirim on the internet, on every accessible means that are now recorded ad olam, forever, that anyone can have access to. There is nothing like this here in Queens. And even though I've moved to Brooklyn, the Rosh Hashiva is correct. I'm correct. I am not an alumnus of Yeshiva Kesser Torah. I very much feel that I am still here. Thank you. In the little time I have left to say, I want to specifically mention my co-honoree, my wife, Rivki Niggin. And frankly, I had to extract permission to say this from her because she's a very tznius person. My wife has for the past 12 years served as a yeshiva school nurse. Hundreds and hundreds of children and their parents have their child's health entrusted to her, and she's managed that magnificently. My wife is a magna cum laude graduate of Hunter College as a nurse, the nursing program. Tomorrow, she's going to function in a different role as the president of the PTA of my son's yeshiva, or Yisrael in Brooklyn, as the organizer of a tea for the entire yeshiva. Just last week, she organized a huge, and I say huge, take my word for it, for a huge family Hanukkah gathering for all the cousins, nephews, grandnieces, my mother-in-law's great-grandchildren, enormous gathering in our shul, and she did this single-handedly. She made the wedding for our for daughter Yocheved on October 24th, just a couple of months ago. And when my parents moved back into their apartment from rehabilitation and assisted living on February 24th, it was my wife who cooked and cleaned and spent the day at the apartment to help them come back in. And I just had mentioned she's now a district manager for our kosher nutrition and other products at our Ban products. Finally, again, I should say, Yeshiva Kesed Torah for the past half century is here in Queens, and for the past 30 years gave me the opportunity to learn Torah and to discover my heritage. I would only wish that the Rosh Yeshiva and the Rebbetzin can continue to lead us many more years, and as it says in Pirkei Avos, 3 things upon which the world stand: al ha-Torah, ve'al ha-avoda, ve'al gemilas chasadim. For Torah, for service, and for the acts of loving kindness. For all of you, for the loving kindness work that you do for Kesed Torah, may you all be blessed. May you all continue to be in a position to contribute to the well-being of the yeshiva. And may we all together celebrate many, many years under the leadership of the Rebbetzin and the Rosh Yeshiva. Thank you very much.
היינו כחלמים עזימה, צחקנו, שינינו ראינה, אז יאמרו הגויים הגדיר, אז עזימה והגדיר, עדיין, עזימה, היינו כמגר,
Bereshus, Rosh Hashiva, Ronam Ramosai, Nevrech Eloheinu Shecholim Mishlo. Baruch Eloheinu Shecholim Mishlo, Tavuch Chayinu.
Baruch el Elokeinu shebranu lechoydoi. Baruch el Elokeinu shebranu lechoydoi v'hivdilanu min hatayim. Baruch el Elokeinu shebranu lechoydoi. Baruch el Elokeinu shebranu lechoydoi v'hivdilanu min hatayim. Min atayim ben hasan lanu toyras emes ayoy v'chaye yoylam notab zoycheinu ben hasan lanu toyras emes ayoy v'chaye Eliyahu ha-Hanovi, Eliyahu ha-Tishbi, Eliyahu ha-Tishbi, Eliyahu ha-Gilodi, Eliyahu ha-Novi, Eliyahu ha-Tishbi, Eliyahu ha-Tishbi, Eliyahu ha-Gilodi. Moshiach ben David, B'meira Yavayelenu, Moshiach ben David, B'meira Yavayelenu, Moshiach ben David, B'meira Yavayelenu, Moshiach ben David. Kadisha Yakiro Anoe Matush Bechon Beyan Orochitz Beyan Orochitz ולשמי קדישו יכירו הנועה מתוש בכון יהי רבו קדומו תסבתך ליבוי ויורייסו יהי רבו קדומו תסבתך ליבוי ויורייסו וסיקרייבו ישוע סילובוי וצדקו סילי גולייס כי יקרייבו ישוע סילובוי וצדקו סילי גולייס כי יקרייבו ישוע סילובוי וצדקו סילי גולייס כי יקרייבו ישוע סילובוי וצדקו סילי גולייס ישועס השם ישועס השם ישועס השם כהרף עין ישועס השם ישועס השם ישועס השם כהרף עין ישועס השם ישועס השם ישועס השם כהרף עין ישועס השם ישועס השם ישועס השם כהרף עין
Simen tov, mazel tov, simen tov.
Thank you.
Hey, Mano, yes, yes, oh, they are the Kobe and the Sugaino, oh, may I have they say, hey, Mano, they say, hey, Mano, yes, 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 oh, they are the Kobe and the Sugaino, oh, may I have Say I love you, my Melave Malka.